His Zoom is freezing.
Yeah, I see him on it. I would say in his,
But I don't know who sent the text.
okay, but if he wants to call in, we can pick him up on the phone
All right, ask him if he can.
and just let us know his last digits. All right, I'm just trying to record. All right, great. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening. We have our YouTube going and we're recording, and we can kick off our meeting. Hang on one sec. Let me just put up for everybody, just if people are wanting to call in, let me just put this up. There we go. Great. All right, great. Thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10-4-10, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by advertising such notice in the Home News Tribune, the Asbury Park Press, the board office, the schools, and on Cablevision Channel 118 and on Vios Channel 124, and by filing such notice with the Township Clerk. This meeting was scheduled for Tuesday, September 22nd, 2020. The board will take formal action on payment of bills and other agenda items. Mr. Mara, please.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis Foster. The Old Bridge Township Board of Education acknowledges that the law of this state establishes that members of the public, including members of the board, have the right to record public board meetings using audio or video recording devices, provided that that act of recording does not interfere with the business of this public board meeting. Therefore, the board makes it known that any such recording is to be considered the private recording of the individual and in no manner represents the official record of this board. The board therefore takes no responsibility for such private recording and completely disavows any future use.
Roll call, please.
Burns.
Present.
Ms. Callie.
Here.
Mr. Caro.
Here.
Mr. DePrima.
Here.
Mr. Dunn.
Present.
Mr. Giordano.
Here.
Ms. Lent.
Here.
Mr. Solikowski.
Present.
Ms. Ellis Foster.
Here.
Quorum exists.
Great, thank you. So if we can, there we go. If we could stand, please, for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice
For all.
I ask everyone if you could continue to stand for a moment of silence. In memorandum, the board acknowledges the death of Walter F. Metzger, Jr., retired teacher, and express its deepest sympathy to his family and friends. Thank you, everyone. Thank you and welcome to the September agenda meeting. Let me just switch to our, switch over to our agenda. This is here somewhere. Hang on one sec. One would think I would have this one down pretty much by now, but we'll get it. Well, why I pull up the agenda, why don't I'll get it up and I'll ask Mr. DePrima, I believe you did the code of ethics for this month.
Yes, ma'am. The board member will hold confidential all matters pertaining to the schools, which, if disclosed, would needlessly injure individuals or the schools. In all other matters, he or she will provide accurate information and in concert with fellow board members, interpret to the staff the aspirations of the community for its school.
Thank you. And now we'll move on to the approval of minutes.
You need to approve the addendum, Ms. Ellis Foster.
I had it. All right, great. We do have an amendment to finance, adding item number 9. If I could just have a motion to approve the amendum, and we'll vote on it with finance. So we can have a roll call, please.
Callie will move.
DeCarlo will
Oh.
second.
Thank you. Now can we have roll
got you.
call?
We got you.
Thank you.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. Caro,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Ms. Lent,
Yes.
Mr. Silikowski,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster.
Yes,
The motion to add the addendum to finance is approved.
thank you very much. All right, I think I'm back on track. So now we'll move to approval of minutes. We have our agenda, regular session, and our closed sessions from August. I can have a motion, please. I mean, can I have
You're right.
a motion?
Yes, you're right, a motion.
DeCarlo, motion.
Mr. Kara,
Lent will second.
Len, thank you very much. Any discussion? None? Can we have a roll call, please, Mr. Mara?
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. Caro,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Ms. Lent,
Yes.
Mr. Silikowski,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster.
Yes.
Resolution 1 passes.
Great, thank you. So now we do have the report of our student representative, who I hope,
Ellis Foster.
yes, is he on the phone?
He is currently trying to call in, but his last 4 digits are 8102, if you see that in the participant.
Don't see any 8102 yet. So why don't we'll keep an eye on it, because we're trying to get back to as much of a little bit of normalcy as we can. So hearing from our student representative is always great to have at this meeting. So I think what we'll do is we're gonna hang on, and hopefully he will be able to get on. And when he does, we'll make sure we switch over to him. In the meantime, we can move on, and Mr. Cittadino, if you want to give your update.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Thank you to our board and our families at home for joining us this evening. Welcome back to the 2020-21 school year. This being the first report of the year, I usually kick it off with some of the major events going on in our schools as we open up. But obviously, we've talked about this is definitely a different year. As we've opened remotely and we've explained to the public the reasons why the task force, the reentry task force, joined us in making that recommendation to the state to change to a remote entry into the school year until we plan to open up on the hybrid model on October 12th. We've seen various reports. We've looked at our student engagement reports, and I'm very pleased to see that our staff and our students and our families are working so hard through these difficult times to remain focused and engaged. We've seen that our attendance is actually at around 98%, which is higher than we usually are for the months of September during a regular opening. So that's very positive. We've seen our students and our teachers doing well and using our IXL, our Newsela platform, in accompaniment with our other various platforms that we're using with the Microsoft Teams. We know it's not easy. We know it's not everyone's progressing at the same level. And that was definitely a topic of our reentry task force meeting today. And I'll have some notes from that in a little bit. We did send home an elementary remote survey to our parents and families to comment on the rigor and length of day of our lessons and to help us with some data from that. We look forward to having that data presented to the public. You'll probably receive it on our website prior to our next public meeting. So you'll have that information as well. But the information will be key to both our task force, the remote task force, which drives the remote instruction and what it looks like, and our reentry task force, which makes decisions about safety measures and when we come back to school in a live format. We've also enabled all our Wi-Fi within our devices through Altice. So if you have a need to have Wi-Fi and you don't have a good Wi-Fi or bandwidth at home, you may enable the Wi-Fi within your device using directions provided by the district. We've also provided you with, obviously this year we'll have a virtual open house with the dates as follows. The middle school open house is scheduled for this evening. High school open house is the 23rd, and the elementary open house will be on the 30th. All of that information should have come from your building principals and on our district website as to how you can meet with your teachers virtually to get the understanding of what will be going on and the expectations in your classroom. Tomorrow will be our mandatory COVID testing for anyone in athletics at the high school level or co-curricular activities. That'll take place on the Old Bridge High School campus throughout the day. Those students involved in those activities would have received notification from our athletic director. As I said earlier, the reentry task force met today with some information, and this is kind of a summary of our meeting. The committee met, and we believe that there is definitely a clear distinction between the success of students are having at the elementary level and the secondary level. Obviously, the students at secondary level are able to work more independently. There's also a big disparity between the success of our students in our special needs programs and the general education programs, as the supports that are needed may not be as relevant or may not be as available, obviously during remote learning. Dr. Hoker provided us with a glimpse of this survey, and we expect to have more information on that at our next meeting. The committee continues to recognize that students with special needs and kindergarten through second grade students would benefit more and from being within live instruction within school, and the committee was open to examining ways to have students return. However, we need certain things to happen prior to the reopening of schools for live instruction. One of the things we noticed is there is a community spread issue that's going on within Old Bridge. As an example, throughout the whole month of the whole month of August, there were 40 new cases of COVID-19 in the entire township of Old Bridge. In the month of September, since school has opened, there are 106 cases designated to the township of Old Bridge. Of those 106 cases, 8 of them currently involve, just within the past week, a little more than a week, 9 days, students who are slated to attend a hybrid schedule here in Old Bridge. Today, we also had the notification and information went out to those families impacted that a freshman on the football team tested positive for COVID-19. The contact tracing process we went through with the county and our nursing coordinator and our district doctor indicated that there was also a need, based upon a scrimmage that took place on the 19th of September, that both the freshman and sophomore football teams would be shut down for 2 weeks, causing for 74 participants to be quarantined. In addition to the 8 that have already tested positive within the district, that brings us to approximately 100 students across the district who are quarantined for close contact. Now, keep in mind, you do not receive alerts about these and so forth because we are in remote education. There is no nexus of spread between the schools and what's going on in the public. But the concern that Department of Health officials and those have is that if we have 8 students testing positive for COVID-19 and we haven't opened the schools yet, the feeling is that that number would be increased by an exposure or shared exposure or community spread within schools if schools were open. So as we all were working on the committee to get our students back by the October 12th hybrid date, and even if not back in entirety, because the numbers we have today was with the 8, there's 1 elementary impacted, 1 middle school, and 6 on the campus of Old Bridge High School. That would indicate that Old Bridge High School, as of today, if we were open, would be closed by the Department of Health. So if we progress forward that we were going to open at lower levels, because obviously the community spread within the high school levels wouldn't allow us to do so, we would definitely need to see a decrease in not only in involvement within our own students, but the community spread as well. We want to thank our township liaison with the Department of Health, Detective D'Onofrio, who provided some very key insight to what's going on in the trends, not only in Old Bridge, but within the county. And his insight was very helpful to our executive committee today relative to the trying to re-enter our schools. Collectively, we all agreed as a committee that a downward trend should be seen among the community and students prior to being students and staff coming back to the district. The length of time for that downward trend has not been finalized by the committee and will be necessary for us to review further data. So we are going to having another meeting on Friday that wasn't scheduled, just so we can look at that trend and to see if the trend has progressed at that point. I assure you and the public that this committee is working hard to provide a safe and sensible reentry to our schools. But at this time, and we haven't made any decisions yet impacting October 12th, but at this time, we need to definitely see some smart decisions out in the public, not gathering, not having large gatherings. And if you are out in the public anywhere, using social distancing and using face coverings, because we need to get these numbers down. There's no reason why in September we should have more than doubled what we saw in July and August. At this point, I want to thank everyone on both committees. We will continue to work towards this. I want to thank the board for the constant updates that we're providing to you and receiving them. And I thank the board for the time and the public for the time this evening with our superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Cittadino. Now I see Dan, our student representative, is on the phone. So we're going to jump back up to that. So Dan, I see you're on the phone. If you can hit *9, then I will be able to I'm trying, and then if you can unmute yourself, you should be able to speak right now. Dan? Just want to make
You got a picture of a phone with a line through it.
Can you guys hear me
there
now?
we
Yeah,
go.
now we can hear you, Dan. Thanks so
Okay.
much.
No problem. Hi, everyone. My name is Daniel Rita, and I am the Old Bridge High School 2020 to 2021 president. Unfortunately, we didn't start this year off the way that we wanted to, but we are definitely going to make the best out of it. And we have this little motto that we keep saying to ourselves and everybody else, that you got this, Old Bridge, and we got you. Currently, we are accepting applications. Actually, tomorrow is the last day that we're accepting them for anyone who wants to join School Senate. And we are really encouraging everyone to get involved so that we are all staying connected throughout this tough time. We are also having club hours built into our school day for anybody who's trying to communicate with their clubs again and get everybody back together. And we will be having a club fair sometime in October for everybody else to see what clubs we have to offer and all that. And Senate, in conjunction with our fall athletes, are going to be collecting food for the food bank on Wednesday, September 30th. We are asking all athletes to bring a donation with them to practice on that day, and then we will deliver them to the food bank later. And the athletes will be receiving more information from their coaches by the end of the week on that. The Senate board has been meeting virtually every week on Wednesdays, usually before school starts, to come up with some activities to keep us together while we are apart. And if you guys want to keep up with all the exciting events that we have to offer, you can just follow us on Twitter at SenateOB. And I just wanted to thank you guys for having me, and I'm excited to see what the school year has in store.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you,
And
Dan.
hopefully we'll be able to figure it out so we can see your face and get you on with us in October. But thank you for everything. And I think that's it. Keeping everybody as connected and having that spirit and the attitude is great.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move that. All right, great. So we're moving on. It was just great to hear from him. Progress towards goals. I think Mr. Sedadina, you kind of included that in your report. Mr. Mayor, are there any correspondences?
No correspondence, Ms. Ellis Foster.
Okay, thank you. And we don't have any special committee reports. All right, great. So now we will move into the hearing of residents. As a reminder, this is for agenda items only. So any topic on the agenda. And at the end of the meeting, again, we have our other another hearing of the residents on any item. So I'm just gonna put back up the call in. Should anybody want to call in? If you want to call in and if you're on the phone, please just hit *9. If you want to speak on an agenda item only and you're on Zoom, if you can just raise your hand and we can unmute you at that point. So I'll give everyone just a second because I know it takes a minute. Again, if you're on the phone and you want to speak, *9. If you're on Zoom, just raise the hand icon. Okay. All right, seeing no hands at this time, we will we'll move on the agenda. Let me get it back up for everybody. Okay, great. So we'll move on to policy. We have just the one item with several policies. If I can have a motion.
Lent will move it.
Thank you. Can I-
Dunn will second.
Mr. Dunn, thank you. Any questions or comments from anyone? Seeing none. Mr. Mayor, roll call, please.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Ms. Lent,
Yes.
Mr. Solikowski,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster.
Yes,
Resolution 1 passes.
thank you. We'll move on to curriculum and professional development 1 through 4. If I can have a motion, please.
Callie will move.
Thank you, Mrs. Kelly. Can I have a second?
Lent will second.
Thank you, Ms. Lent. Any discussion, comments, concerns? All right. If I could have, could we have roll call, please, Mr. Mara?
Mr. DePrima,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Ms. Lent,
Yes.
Mr. Solikowski,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster.
Yes,
Resolutions 1 to 4 pass.
thank you. Moving on to athletics, item number 1. If I can have a motion, please.
I'll move it.
Thank you, Mr. DePrima. Can I have a second?
Lent
Burns
will
will second.
Lent was just a little louder on that one, so we'll give it to her. Okay, thank you. Any questions, None? All right. If we could have a roll call, please, Mr. Mara.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Ms. Lent,
Yes.
Mr. Solakowski,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Ms. DeCaro,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 passes.
Thank you. Now we're moving on to finance. It's actually number 1 through 9. We have the amendment. So if I can have a motion on finance items 1 through 9, please.
Callie will move.
Mrs. Kelly?
DeCaro will second.
Thank you, Mr. Kara. All right, do we have any questions, comments? No? All right. Roll call, please, Mr. Mara.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Ms. Lent,
Yes.
Mr. Solakowski,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Ms. DeCaro,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 9 pass.
Nothing in non-certificated personnel office. So the next is non-certificated personnel operation, number 1. If I can have a motion, please.
DeCaro will motion.
Thank you. Ms.
Until
Kara.
second?
And second, Lent. Thank you, Ms. Lent. Any questions, comments? All right, great, thank you. Could we have a roll call, please, Mr. Mara?
Mr. Solakowski,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Ms. DeCaro,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Ms. Lent,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster.
Yes.
Resolution 1 passes.
All right, if we'll move on to 2, non-certificated personnel, other 1 through 6. If I could have a motion, please.
Callie will move.
DeCaro will second.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, any?
Ooh. I think she froze.
Mr. Carroll, do you want to take over?
Sure. Were we at any discussion?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Okay, so any discussion? No. Anything? All right, roll call, Mr. Mara?
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Ms. DeCaro,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima,
Oh, there we go.
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Ms. Lent,
Yes.
Mr. Solakowski,
Yes.
and the returning Ms. Ellis Foster.
Hello? Yes, I apologize for that.
Resolution.
I could hear myself fine. All right, sorry. Okay, good. Mr. Mayor,
Okay.
Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Jeez.
We finished the meeting,
if
Kelly.
you want to make me host, I can share. Yeah, right. All right, good. So we're moving on to certificated personnel, items 1 through 15. If I can have a motion, please.
Dunn will move certificated personnel items 1 through 15, Madam President.
And second, please.
Burns will second.
Separating one for discussion.
You got it. All right. Matt, it's all you. Mr. Salkowski.
It's on me, huh? Okay, we have two retirees, a Fran Younger with 33 years. She is at Glen School, a psychologist, and Diane Cuba, Memorial School, grade 2, 16 years, a total of 49 years. Thank you for your service, ladies.
Kelly, we do have 3 administrative corrections under certificated personnel. On item number 1, Ms. Diane Zuber, her retirement date is actually changed to December 1st, 2020. Item number 2, Alicia Weitzel, her resignation date is November 11/15/2020. And then if we move to item number 15, item number A, the middle box, percentage funded should be 41%, not 59.96. And it should be 42,000 funded, 42,515 funded, and not 63,396. Sorry about that, Mr. Solikowski.
No problem.
I just also want to add that number 1B is grade 1, not grade 2.
All right, great. Thank you. Everyone got those? All right. So any other comments? No? All right. Well, congratulations to our retirees. We hope you enjoy it and well deserved. If we could have a roll call, please, Mr. Mara.
Ms. DeCaro,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Ms. Lent,
Yes.
Mr. Solikowski,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 15 pass.
Thank you, Mr. Mara. Mr. Mara, could you also make me host so I can share the agenda?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. That way everyone can see what we're doing. Perfect.
You are the host.
Thank you, sir. There we go. All right. All right, we're on to non-certificated personnel transportation 1 and 2. If I can have a motion, please.
Callie will move.
I'll move.
Second?
Actually, I heard Mr. DePrima as the second, I believe. Callie and DePrima.
Move.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Concerns? None? All right, if we could have a roll call, please, Mr. Mara.
Mr. DePrima,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Ms. Lent,
Yes.
Mr. Solikowski,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 and 2 pass.
Thank you. We move on to supplies, equipment, and services, number 1 and 2. If I could have a motion, please.
I will move 1 and 2. This is probably the first time I ever moved anything.
Very good. All right, Mr.
And
Skoski.
I'll second Matt's first move for anything.
All right, very good. Any questions or comments? None, seeing none. If we could have a roll call, please.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Ms. Lent,
Yes.
Mr. Solikowski,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster.
Yes,
Resolutions 1 and 2 pass.
thank you. Moving on to transportation, numbers 1 through 3. If I can have a motion, please.
Callie will move.
Thank you, Ms.
Carol, second?
Ms. Carroll, thank you. Any questions, comments? Not seeing any. If we can have a roll call, please, Mr. Mara.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Ms. Lent,
Yes.
Mr. Silikowski,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 3 pass.
Thank you. Moving on to miscellaneous numbers 1 through 5. If I can have a motion, please.
I'll move 1 through 5.
All
That's
right,
on a
Mrs.
roll. I'll second that.
I'm on a roll tonight.
All right, Silikowski and DeCara, thank you very much. Any questions, comments?
I just have one thing. The attendance under the special meeting for district goals.
Mhm.
We had administration there, yes?
We did have
Mr.
Mr.
Cedeno?
Cedeno. I believe that was, I know we had Mr. Cedeno.
I think it was just me.
I think, yes. So
Okay,
just-
we'll be added.
No, okay.
I think I was there on the 19th.
Kathy,
As a
were you there?
district,
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
as a district. It seems so long ago now.
I was not at the September, but I was at the August.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't catch that one. Thank you, Ms. Callie.
You're welcome.
Anyone else, anything? Okay, great. All right, if we could have a roll call, please, Mr. Mara.
Ms. Lent,
Yes.
Mr. Silikowski,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster.
Yes,
Resolutions 1 through 5 pass.
great, thank you. Now we'll move on to board business, which will be the approval of the district and the board goals for the 2020-2021 school year. If I can have a motion, please.
Callie will move.
Kelly
And will second.
and Mr. Dunn, thank you. I know we did, we went in the agenda meeting last week, but just for those who might not be on, we'll just kind of quickly do a summary. Our district goals really are based on our 5-year strategic plan, following very similar to what we've done in past years, just updating them slightly. So we will continuing our excellence in education to continue to enhance innovative educational opportunities for all students in accordance with the needs of our community and our strategic plan. Fiscal resilience, continue to evaluate options to improve fiscal reserves due to significant decrease in state aid, and continue efforts to educate our stakeholders on the district's financial situation due to the significant reduction in state aid. And the whole child, continue initiatives to address students' physical, social, and emotional needs, and instill practices that eradicate bias and discrimination from our learning community. The board goals, which also try to support those and things we can do as a board, are to continue towards achieving master board certification by 2022 by continuing to receive professional development with the New Jersey School Board Association programs. This is a 2-year goal that will require 10 additional credits by the fall of 2022. Continue to support our district and community events, either virtually or in person. Continue to embrace cultural diversity at our board meetings that is reflective of our community, and encourage two-way communication between the board and the community. So if there's any comments from anyone from the board or the administration?
I will just say that I'm excited that after our last meeting with our NJSBA field rep, that we are a certified board now. And we met the requirements, right? And now we're going to go to the requirements to be for the master board certification. So yay us.
You're correct, Mrs. Callie. Mrs. DeCara, sorry. Your
Wrong
boxes,
people.
and your boxes are right next to me, so I apologize. Anyone else? Very great, thank you. If we could have a roll call, Mr. Mayor, please.
Mr. Sulikowski,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Ms. Lind,
Yes.
Ms. Alice Foster.
Yes.
Resolution with the district goals and board goals pass.
Thank you. So now we will open it back up to hearing of the residents on any district topic. If you are on the phone, please select *9. If you are on a Zoom, just raise your hand and I will call on you in the order that they will pop up on my screen. So I see we have, first up is Mr. O'Neill. Mr. O'Neill, if you unmute, you should be able to speak right now.
Hello,
We can hear you.
thank you. As a member of the task forces that Mr. Cedeno referenced earlier, I wanted to thank him for sharing the constantly evolving data with the public and also add a little bit to what he said. Specifically regarding the goal of opening on October 12th. The task force picked that date, but it was somewhat arbitrary. The goal was to delay without waiting until the second marking period, as many other districts did. And our goals in delaying were to give the district more time to prepare for the opening so we could do it as safely as possible, and also to allow time to observe the community spread and the openings in the other districts to avoid our staff and students acting like guinea pigs in the reopening experiment. So as more information comes out, especially as we perhaps start to see dangerous spikes, I think that it just reinforces that the task force and the district made the right decision and acting cautiously as we did. So thank you all.
Okay, thank you, Mr. O'Neill. Okay, now, next up, I see it's somebody on the phone, and it's it's designated as a Galaxy Note 8. So I will unmute you, and if you should now be able to unmute yourself, and if you can just state your name and then your comment.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, hi, this is Amber Miller.
Hi, Amber.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. I just wanted to call in and advocate for my kids. Working mama of 4 with 4 children doing the remote learning, and I just wanted to ask a question. I have 3 children that have IEPs, and one of my twins went to general education this year. She graduated from having IEPs, so we're very excited about that. And having 4 children on different levels, one now being in gen ed, the other 3 in various special needs classes, my question is it possible, despite what the COVID numbers will show, to have special education students return to class regardless? And the question is because I know there's other districts that have the general education population doing remote learning while the special education students have returned to class. And I ask that because I'm advocating desperately for my youngest and my oldest, who I sit in between with one ear on my oldest son's class and the other ear on another speaker on my youngest son, who's has a one-on-one para, who happens to be me. And I have my twin, my son, who needs help. He's in ICR, and the teacher's dojoing me. He's not on task, and I just can't get to him. My general education daughter is doing fabulous. So I'm able to now see, having a child who's in general education now, that she is okay. She can work independently. Where on the other extreme, my youngest, who has a one-on-one aide, who has autism, and who is completely unable to follow any directions and work independently online, remotely, it's impossible for us to do much at all in the remote setting. So regardless of the COVID numbers moving forward, is it possible for the special education students to return to class in this public schools?
I will address just, and good evening, Ms. Miller. I will address just basically the kind of, I guess, the summary we had with our task force today. And I don't think there's anybody on the task force that doesn't want that to happen, to at least when we explored that specific question which you bring up is, you know, who are our students most at risk from staying home? And how do we better serve them, if possible, if we can bring them back? If that is the, you know, the entryway into bringing students back, do we start with our youngest and our students with IEPs, self-contained classrooms, and going from there? The question then becomes, you know, as we're seeing an increase not only of young people, but of adults in the community, how do we do so without putting such great risk to the staff who are also there, and, you know, especially in the self-contained, have greater proximity to students than do general education classrooms, or closer proximity. So that's all something we want to do, and we're trying to head towards, even as these numbers are coming in, but keeping in mind that no group is impervious or immune to the virus. And at times our staff is at the higher risk for contracting it and having adverse effects to it based upon their health groups or age or what have you. So it's a matter of working towards that and having the benefits, and we truly see the benefits outweighing the risks of human life.
Okay. Am I still on?
Yes,
Can you
you're
hear me?
yes, you're still on. Yep.
Oh, okay. I completely hear what you're saying and understand. You know, being a nurse, actually having worked on the COVID unit in my rehab center that I work at, I get tested weekly. I understand COVID. I've seen it. So I completely understand from a healthcare professional's perspective the severity of it. But it, you know, talking about PPEs and children returning to school, social distancing, having their own supplies, as a mom and as a nurse, I don't see a significant challenge if everyone's protecting themselves with PPEs, distancing as appropriate, as recommended by the CDC, having their own itemized supplies and own their own boxes. I don't see how it wouldn't be possible, like just from a mom and a nurse perspective. That I just wanted to like put that out there, especially when you have a low classroom population, 4, 5, 6, 7 students. You can move them to a bigger general education classroom, so there is more space. These are just suggestions that I just have been thinking in my head, just because I'm sadly seeing my children regress terribly. And I've actually, been on the phone with our case manager today about changing placement for my oldest because of that. Mm-hmm. So I need to advocate for them, and that's why I wanted to call in tonight and kind of speak as a mom, as a nurse, just kind of put my 2 cents in. But I understand I wouldn't want to be in your position, but thank you for your service. And yes, please just keep us informed and think about all the children.
Yes, definitely. And thank you for your question. The only difference from what I understand from my recent conversation with the Department of Health, is that nurses and people in the medical field are not subject to the quarantine regulations as teachers or educators would be. So if a teacher and educator was in contact with a student who tested positive, that teacher or educator would have to go home and quarantine, and would also impact their family as well. Their family members would have to quarantine, and impact them being able to go to work and so forth. And that would be overseen by the Department of Health. And that was just something that came up that they showed was a difference between, obviously, people who work, and I commend you and thank you for your working in a COVID center. But as you're working in a COVID center, you obviously can't quarantine for every contact you have for working in a COVID center. But people who work in a school, once they're in contact, they're directed to quarantine. And if they're in contact at home with someone, they have to quarantine as well from their work or livelihood.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller, and thank you for being a first responder. So we're going down the list. I see Mr. Bell. I just allowed you to talk. So if you unmute yourself, you should be able to speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I wrote an email to, I think it may have reached everyone on the Board of Education last week. I'm not sure what opportunity you've had to familiarize yourself with it, but it regards, I suppose, the potential political biases of teachers, educators, and the like, and their role implicitly, intentionally or unintentionally, in, I suppose, influencing the school children in what they should believe politically. Miss Ellis Foster, I know that you and I exchanged an email or two. I didn't get a chance to respond to your response, but I did jot down some things that I wanted to say in response to the email that, address my concerns. And I also had the opportunity to speak to Mr. Giordano earlier today regarding them. And one of them, it centers around the presence of critical race theory and other types of anti-racist activism that educators may be exposed to, and as a result, children. So to get to the point of that, I remember in your email you had said that I perhaps made a leap in logic that Superintendent Cittadino's letter regarding the protests and in the wake of the killing of George Floyd were politically motivated. And on some level, like, I felt perhaps my words were kind of extreme, and maybe I even sounded a little bit deranged, because I don't really believe that a cabal of extremists are cramming ideas into children's heads. I really don't think that's going on at all. To all appearances, Mr. Cittadino, as well as Ms. Fazio and Mr. Sasso, who were present for that rally back in June, seem to be otherwise caring and committed educators. So with that in mind, I do need to turn attention towards what I feel might be that kind of a implicit endorsement that may be affecting children. So back in July, I saw that Mr. Cittadino had tweeted a pbs.org training, and it was entitled, I believe, Tools for Anti-Racist Teaching. Now, obviously this is coming from Mr. Cittadino, and as a citizen, he has obviously the right to his opinions and whatnot. However, it was retweeted by school officials, including I believe the principal of Voorhees and a current student at Old Bridge High School. I believe her name was Victoria Kroll. And it was also liked by a host of individuals who have positions in our schools, and also a few students and current students of Old Bridge High School. And I had the opportunity, at least over the past few months, since I've been trying to hash out my feelings on this, because it's a little bit bigger than what went on back in June with that rally. And that's also why I didn't speak up on it right away, because I really hadn't had time to organize my thoughts. Also, I've been studying for the bar exam. But it seems to be the case to me that after watching these four anti-racist training videos that they were espousing critical race theory. In one video, I believe it was entitled Using Media. I don't have that full title in front of me, but in one of them there was a quote unquote scholar named Courtney Cook who studies and writes about critical whiteness theory. And I'm not going to go through everything that she said, but one of the highlights was there's no such thing as a good white, or being white means a historical inheritance to violence and terrorism. So, like I said, some of these troubling ideas may not be getting put out there completely intentionally, and I certainly don't think it's malicious, but when educators are at least tweeting about it, and students, educators are clearly watching it, or at least have the opportunity to watch it, it's concerning, because I feel that this is political indoctrination on some level, or it is political influence. And I think that schools should eschew a kind of orthodoxy about what people should think in, the realm of politics, morality, religion, and the like. I just think it's better from a bipartisan perspective that students, that these type of politics just are kept out.
Ms. Ellis Foster?
Yes, Ms. Parton.
Mr. Bell, just so you know, we have a 5-minute limit for public speakers. So if you could start to wrap up your comments, please.
I am done. I just think that as far as resolutions about this, I think that it might be good for the school board and perhaps the town in general to sit down and form some type of consensus about this type of training, and perhaps officials should be more conscientious about how their behavior may imply endorsement of these things. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We'll move on to the next person up is, I see Mrs. Babbitts. Hang on, let me just undo this. And okay, Mrs. Babbitts, if you unmute yourself, you should be able to speak.
Hi, yes, I'm unmuted. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. I just had a quick question. When would we at the latest be notified if schools are in fact not planning to reopen? I think I saw some guidance that said that districts needed to let had to report to the state a minimum of 7 days before. But would we be notified sooner? Like, is there kind of like a time frame that you guys have in mind? Thank you.
Thank you.
I will have Mr. Parton interject if I'm wrong in any way. If the will and the direction of the stakeholder task force, based upon the information and data we receive, is that we would progress towards opening on October 12th, and October 12th being a Monday, but the 9th being a Friday, and we had provided the information. But if there was a situation where it was become through data or information provided by the Department of Health that there was, 12 students tested positive throughout the district and cause for more research, I don't know if I could say that we'd have to wait another 7 days to close school. I think it's, again, falls under the public health emergency, but I could be wrong in there again, Mr. Parton. Correct
No, that's correct, Mr. Cittadino. The Department of Health guidelines in that 19-page document that they promulgated on August 23rd, they lay out a bunch of scenarios that are automatic closure triggers. And like a snowstorm, if one of them were to become known to the superintendent and Dr. Sasso, for instance, if it's an Old Bridge High School issue, on a Thursday night, it is possible that schools could be closed Thursday night effective Friday, or that the reopening of schools could be determined on Sunday evening, October 9th, and October 8th, and affect October 9th or 11th and 12th. So while you will certainly strive to give as much notice as possible if there is a change, and right now your plan is what it is, there is no requirement. And if it is a matter of public health and safety, student health and safety, we'll give as much notice as possible. But if schools need to be closed, they will be closed. So the answer is, Ms. Babbitts, unfortunately, it depends.
Can I just ask a quick part two to that? So thank you for that information. My quick follow-up to that is, then would there be additional, I don't know, opportunities, or I don't know if it's necessarily another survey that would have to go out, but some kind of like something where if we are still remote, I'm one of the, I sympathize and empathize with Mrs. Miller. I, too, am a special needs parent, as you know, and struggling a lot in remote learning. And so, and we would love to have my son back in the building. He needs to be back in the building. I can't stress that enough. And I speak on behalf of probably hundreds of parents who feel the same way. But if we are still remote, will there be more opportunities for training, or to allow for a more robust remote learning that can address the needs of us parents who perhaps our children have one-to-one aids and we are really struggling and are at a breaking point? But is there something that we could look into? Perhaps this is more directed towards Dr. Toohey, but I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
Just to clarify, training for staff or training for parents?
I don't know, maybe both, or just something to help parents, something to help with just figuring out how to navigate the situation that we're in, and just the supports that I think, really being clear and identifying the supports that our children need. And, it's falling on the shoulders. And I think the reason why there's so much frustration from us parents is that it is falling squarely on our shoulders. Many of us have had to alter work, change, stop working, take leave, change work hours, because we are our children's one-to-one aid. And, they're very vital supports that are basically stopping or prohibiting our children from accessing the curriculum in many ways in a remote setting. So I guess I'm asking more towards, not necessarily training, but are we going to evaluate remote learning for our children with special needs, and specifically those who have one-to-one aids, to see how we can make it a more impactful and more positive experience?
Sure. Why don't we schedule something either later this week or the beginning of next week, and I can get some more input from you, and perhaps some of the other parents. Okay?
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you, Dr. Toohey.
Sure.
I just also want to add to that next week we should be starting, and the information will go home with the weekend update. We'll be starting our night school that we hope will help our parents and our students who need additional assistance. Right now we have it tentatively set up for 6:30 to 7:30, where we will have a teacher in grades K through 8, pre-K through 8. Pre-K through 5, we'll have one teacher on each grade level. We have special education teachers that will be available. And at the middle school, we have the content area per grade level that will also be available. And those details will be should be coming out on Friday, and those resources and those teachers will be available, albeit it's an hour an evening. We'll get started there and then see what we need to adjust to make it viable for everyone and provide the assistance that we expect it to.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Mrs. Babbitts. Now we have someone on the phone. The last 2 digits of the phone number are 44. So you should be able to unmute yourself now. And if you can just state your name, we'll be able to hear you. if your phone number ended in 44, if you can just unmute, and you should be able to speak. And give it one more. The last phone number is 5644. If you have your hand raised, you should be able to speak. If you just unmute yourself, we can hear you. I'm not sure. Okay. If you can unmute, we can hear your comment, but unfortunately, it doesn't appear as you're able to unmute. So I don't know if you want to try again, but we could not hear you. So if we'll ask you to try it one more time. If there is anyone else, any other, oh, we got one more. Okay, Mrs. Bonomo, let me unmute you, and you should be able to speak, Teresa.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
I'm sorry. Okay, well, first of all, I just want to say what a wonderful young spokesman we have at the high school. I think that he is so well spoken, and I can't wait to hear from him again. I also want to, this is more of a comment than a question, because I've heard a lot of negativity. I would like to say thank you to all the administration and the teachers. I know that this is a very difficult time for everyone, but these are unprecedented times, and it calls from unprecedented measures. And I know a lot of people are speaking about Old Bridge, but I work for another district, and I could only tell these people that I wish that I worked for Old Bridge. I'm part of one of the task force, as Mr. O'Neill is, and the amount of time and energy and effort that is put into everything that goes into this, I wish people could know. And I just want to say that on behalf of my son, who is also a special needs student, the teachers are working beyond. The teachers are working, I want to say 14 to 16-hour days. And I cannot thank them enough. And I just want to bring some positivity to this meeting because I feel like a lot of it is negative. And I want to thank all of you for all of your hard work and dedication. And let's see where we can go forward, because that's where we have to press, whether we are going forward virtually or remote. We have to see what the numbers bring. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Okay. All right. Anyone else? We'll give another tab if anybody else wants to. Any comments?
I feel like we had two hands raised before and now they're gone.
Yep, we got one more just jumped up. Hang on. Okay, all right. Noelle? Oh, yep, you should be able to talk.
Hello, hi,
Hi.
thank you. I have two children in the Old Bridge district, elementary students, and I just want to make a comment on the amount of screen time that they're expected to be on all day is just way too much. It's frustrating for my kids, and it's not healthy. I just want to make a comment about that. And if the numbers, even though we're a low risk community, if the numbers still go up, will you consider opening just the elementary schools only? Because you acknowledge that these kids need to be in school. So just want to know that.
I think I referred to that during the superintendent's report, that was a goal that the I keep on saying task force, but the, it is a task force, is looking towards. And yes, that is something we looked at. Ms. Summonson, you said something about us being a low-risk community. What do you mean by that?
When I go on the Middlesex County website, it lists each community, and we're still in the green. We're low risk. So you can say there's 40 new cases in a population of 65,000 people, and that the spread is going up, but we're still low risk, according to the state.
Okay. It was different from the information we received today from the liaison with the Department of Health. Middlesex County alone was in the top 3 counties in the state for community spread, and Old Bridge is in the top within those townships within the Middlesex County. So I would look to see what that means further, but I'll get back to you with more information.
One more question. So these triggers that would cause the school to close, that the task force will decide, is this state guidelines, or this is just the task force deciding this?
We're working obviously with the Department of Health, our school district doctor, our nursing coordinator, and the liaison with the Department of Health, and bringing that information back to us. And with that data they provide us with, we make decisions as a collective whole.
I have one last question. The flyer you sent out about the YMCA and the district endorsing that as an alternative for working parents to send their child there. Have you come up with any centers for children that would need more assistance as a public school district? Just curious if you've made any recommendations for parents with special needs where they could send their child to a center and do remote learning and then go to work. Thank you.
As we said in the, our responses back and forth, the district endorses and sends information out, less than an endorsement, I would say, to any nonprofit that offers community programs and services to advance anyone within our school district. You know, like I said, we had 8,400 school district students, all with different abilities and needs and strengths. And we send it out to help any family that is in need. And that particularly came out. I know a lot of families were looking before and after care as one of the topics on there, as the township has suspended theirs temporarily. And I believe they plan to come back, but looking to assist those families. And we will continue to look for, or when we receive, in fact, when we receive them from other agencies, I haven't received any from CPAG asking me to endorse anyone or any group that is looking to assist families like that. If you guys have any that you want me to send out, I know that, the day prior to that, Rutgers sent something out that we sent out for Girls Who Code. Obviously, it wouldn't impact all of our students, and not all of our students would be able to participate, but we send it out to those who have an interest in it or can benefit from it. And again, our guidelines is that it's from a nonprofit recognized 501(c)(3). Any other organizations that can help out families, and that is their goal, to help out families without making a profit, we pass them along as we receive them, and we'll continue to look for ways to help others. I do want to say while I'm speaking, and you do mention the Y, at the YMCA on Saturday, they'll be having a blood drive for our Salk student, Bobby Delgado. It'll be Fight Like a Jedi. That'll be from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. I thank the YMCA for hosting this blood drive for a member of our community. And really, I see the Ms. Delgado's online. If she wants to call in and speak more to it, it's always welcome. But from 10 to 4, I don't know if you've had to register by now, but obviously it's great to support any of those endeavors. And I hope to see many people there as we've put this out, and looking for the community to rally around Bobby and get that support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I see we're going to try again with the caller on the phone with the phone number ending in 44. So, so our phone caller, if you unmute yourself now, we should be able to hear you. There you go.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, finally got this right.
There we go. Can you just
Hi.
give your name, please?
Sure. This is Mrs. Porecha, Purvi Porecha. I want to be very quick because in the interest of time. I have two kids. One is in the general education first grade, and one kid is in special ed. in the 3rd grade. And I'm a full-time working mom, and like a lot of other folks, and we're trying to make this work. My husband had to go back to work in July. My daughter, who's in general education, is in one of the the districts that are not with YMCA but another private daycare. I had to put her since July. She's been in a private daycare and she logs on now to the district website. I pay $800 a month. Just because I can work full time and support my special needs kid and support her with my husband not being at home. So and then now I have to go back to work end of this month. So I was really hoping for the district to open. I know that you're not saying it's not open. I'm getting some vibes and it's making me extremely nervous. So I have to voice my opinion because I want to give you a 5-minute snapshot of how my day looks. He has a one-on-one aide. Obviously, I'm his one-on-one aide right now because that's just the way remote learning works with special ed kids who need that much level of support. And I have one year has one headphone with my son's, remote and one with my work. And I'm constantly muting, unmuting, trying to talk to, and it's a haphazard. Now, I obviously need to go into work, even if I can possibly shed the money to kind of have him going to private with spending $800. I can't even do that that's not even an option for me. So and I just wanted to share that my daughter, I'm a mom too, and like everybody else, and I understand the concern district has with health. Some of us are working in, my sister works, she's a doctor, she's an ER, so in New Jersey, and all of us are doing our bit and everybody's concerned, but my daughter is going to the private, and they are doing the care, and I as a mom am not concerned, but I understand as a district, I'm not judging, you need to do, but what about a special ed? And what do I do? What do working parents who need to go into work, who have no option to kind of keep, I can't keep a nanny, I can't keep anybody who can watch my son. So what would people like us do? Like, is district planning on having like an aide, like the other parents said, like some kind of, what is the plan for parents like, situations like this? Like when you come up with a plan, we all need to plan our lives, right? So will you be taking stuff like this into account? Because, we've been doing this since March, and we are at this point, I can't see my son, regress anymore, so that's it. I'm just here to advocate and just try to figure out how we can work this out together as a district, and, just please look out for our special ed kids. That's all I can tell. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I see, Karen. Let me unmute you. And Karen, Denise, if you unmute yourself, you should be able to speak.
Yes, hi, this is Denise. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, hi. I'm going to start with one positive and say that the teacher that my son has at Memorial is fantastic and working extremely closely with his special needs. So I do want to commend the teachers. I know they're working very hard. As a district, it's very disappointing to have to sit at the table in my house from 9 a.m. to a good 12:30, have lunch, and get back on when my son can barely sit still. So with all the extra help we're having, I've had numerous toys in his hands and things for him to sit on. He's doing jumping jacks in between one-on-ones. We're not doing the specials right now because it just is not working for him to see all the squares and have this device in front of him. So as Noelle had said, Amber, Miss Babbitts, all of them, and this last woman that just spoke, I'm speaking for the special education, and I do understand that the district wants all the children to go back to school eventually. But I'm going to kind of beg to get my kid back in school sooner because I see the regression. I see his mood. Today he cried over 2 hours while the screen was on. I had to mute him. I had to take the video off because he was just not functioning, and it's not who he is. So it's very upsetting. It's hard for me as a mom because I can't do anything else in the house while he's doing stuff. So I have to sit with him when the teacher asks a question, whether it's one-on-one or not, and I am his aide. And I've always been his, number one fan and advocate, but I'm not a teacher and I'm not an aide. But I have no other choice. I can't work until after 3, 4 o'clock. I can't work until a weekend. Thankfully, my husband has a job and he's an essential worker, but it's very, very stressful. I'm trying to, live part of my life and do functioning things in the house, but it's very difficult. He went upstairs, he runs around. I had to turn off quite a few lessons, and some of the OT and speech, some of the Zooms, we couldn't connect, they couldn't hear us, we couldn't see them, they couldn't see us. And you're losing that 20, 30-minute time that you're scheduled for. So it's very frustrating. I did have a device issue that was fixed within the first 3 or 4 days. And I just wanted to express how difficult it is. And I only have one child at home. I have another child who's older. He goes to a private school, and he's doing very well. And thankfully he's going and wearing a mask and everything is up to par. One other thing I do want to add is, being our children are in smaller groups, getting them in a little sooner would be extremely helpful for them in all aspects, because they are smaller. And if there's a group of 10 and only half of the parents decide to send them, that's even smaller for them. But my child, I feel he just needs to be in school. I'm afraid he's not going to get on the bus if this lasts much longer, because from the COVID March into April and the summer, he didn't see one teacher until the end of June, and we did some ESY, and that was also a struggle. And once the Zoom started, my son just lost it. He thinks by 9:30 school's over. He doesn't want to do it, and he always was happy. So I just wanted everybody to know how difficult it's been, and just if Dr. Tui or Mr. Cittadino can just really think, and help us out. And whatever meeting or whatever you discuss, if we can just be involved in everything going forward, because we need to know what's going to happen in October. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, I see, Mrs. Delgado. If you unmute yourself, you should be able to speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I just wanted to thank Mr. Cittadino immensely for mentioning the blood drive for Bobby that will be taking place on Saturday at the YMCA. I am proud to say we had 85 slots and we have 84 filled. So if anyone would like to do blood, we are requesting, definitely, if you are O negative, which is very, very rare. If you are O negative, please call me or email me or contact. I'm sure Debbie Nor will give you my phone number. I don't care if anyone gives it out. And I will try to get you in on Saturday, because all O negative blood goes directly to Bobby. It goes into the blood bank with his name on it, and it is for him. He was diagnosed July 1st. He has had 12 pints of blood and 4 units of platelets already. 2 for today, and he will be getting another one tomorrow. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who has been helping out, and especially everyone at Salk. His teachers, his caseworker are immensely helping, and everyone who's reached out from his past schools, which were Southwood, Carpenter, McDivitt, and Miller. They are unbelievable. And even Mr. Cittadino keeps asking how he is. I can't say enough about this district, about how everyone has rallied behind him. And I just really wanted to say thank you, and I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, and all the best for Bobby. And I'm working on my daughter. She's O negative, so I'll reach out to you and I'll let you know.
I was just gonna say my husband's O negative. Unfortunately, he's working Saturday, but we'll get him in the chair.
Okay. All right, so it looks like we have gotten everybody who had a question. So we'll give it one more time. If there's anyone who hasn't spoken yet, if you wanted to, if you just raise your hand. Okay. All right, so I'm not seeing anyone else. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. We know how difficult this is for everyone right now. So thank you for calling in, sharing your comments, and I mean, as Mr. Cittadino said, we are looking to see what we can do as soon as possible, especially for those who are in the greatest need. So we will close the public comment portion. We will move on to old business. Do we have any old business? Anybody? No?
Can I ask a couple questions?
Yes, you may.
Okay, Mr. Cittadino, when you sent out the elementary survey, is there anything for middle school or high school that's going to go out?
We're looking at that. The elementary was specifically targeted because that was the number one area we're receiving concerns based upon student engagement and or the rigor or the length of day asking the students to be on the screen. Whereas the secondary level, there was a few concerns about students and screen time, but they seem to be adjusting more to it, especially as you go up in the grade level. There seems to be more of an expectation, especially as you prep students for learning beyond college, high school now that, so much time is devoted to online learning as well. So we'll continue to look at that, but right now the emphasis was on elementary, so we can put our resources in that area and hopefully guide more of our night school efforts in that area too.
Thank you. And then my other question is, I can't think how to word this. Give me a minute.
Okay. We have old business too, so.
You can skip me. It's all right. I'll come back.
Anybody else old business? So for new business, I did want to bring up the committee. We had our meeting on the committee, and we had talked about maybe rephrasing and making it clearer to the public what our committees are about. And I know I sent out something to everyone on the board and wanted to maybe see if we could have a little discussion about your thoughts on making some slight modifications, still the same number of committees. I just wanted to see if we could share some thoughts on that.
I can, Kelly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can just say, I am thrilled and I appreciate what you sent out to everybody. And I really like the way you kind of like reorganized. I mean, we still have the same amount of committees, but I do think that it's important as I'm watching you get everything up now.
Yeah, there we go.
I do think it's important that the public knows what these committees are about and that we do have a little description on it. And I would like, and I think it's important that we do submit to the public an agenda so that they know what exactly is being discussed. Because I have always advocated, going to President's Council meetings, and even in these meetings in the past, I've always advocated for people to attend these committee meetings, because this is when a lot of the information is revealed to a lot of people. So I think this is a very, very great thing that we're doing right now to try to not so much restructure the committees, but make them more so that people know what really they are. So I think this is a great thing, and I'm excited and I'm happy I think that what you have written and what I've read from what you sent out is very, very great proposals. So that's all I have to say about that.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, I mean, I think this is really all in an effort to kind of some of our goals of how do we improve community engagement and some two-way communication, and just how some of our committees are named, and we really don't have good definitions out there right now for the public, so this would also allow us to do that. It keeps basically the same number of committees as we have now.
Right. Yep, exactly.
I have a question. Sorry.
Yeah.
So, policy, health and safety, does that mean medical services would no longer be a part of food service and athletics?
Right. Health. Yeah, we would put the health there because we kind of, this would actually broaden a little bit athletics and really make it about athletics and extracurricular. So encompass all of extracurricular activities for students. And I don't know if you've noticed when I sent out the information to everybody, there was a list of several other districts similar size to ours. I was looking at those and how did they have their committee structured? And I saw there was one of the districts had it that way. And I thought, we don't really have one where we address the other extracurricular activities. And this would, you know, whereas curriculum and, you know, the student services is all the academic stuff for the student. The athletics and extracurricular is all there's other things with the students, you know, that is just as important. So that was the thought about that. And then with the finance and operations, as we know, we always meet as a finances committee as a whole, and then operations kind of puts all together those operational things, right? So they're not necessarily, they're the kind of what we call the bones, right? Keeps everything working in the background under that. And then gives us a chance to elevate a community relations committee, which, you know, again, we said is something we wanted to do, and it would give us that opportunity to make that more than just, you know, what's the calendar, but how can we be more engaging? What other organizations can we work with to further and create better opportunities for our students in the community? So the thought of was that. And so some of these names are names that really were either seen in other districts as potential ideas.
Madam President, I think that, you know, transparency is the important part, and I think what you've done here to align the committees and to redefine, you know, what they're about by taking the grouping and placing the correct alignment for each committee, I think is very viable. I think that, you know, being transparent and let the community see the minutia that goes into dealing with what the board does on a given day is excellent. And I think that what you've proposed here goes a long way with having the public and even some board members understand, you know, what our roles and responsibilities are in the committee structure. So the realignment or the revision of the committee structure that you have proposed, I think is fine. I think that it just defines and realigns what's important committee-wise and gives, you know, people a clear roadmap. So I'm okay what you have here.
Thanks. And again,
Can I go?
Yeah, yes.
Sorry.
Mr. Prima.
No,
Yeah,
go ahead. Finish.
Yeah, I was just
All
saying.
right, go ahead.
Go.
Okay. Being a dinosaur on the board and in life in general, I thought I wasn't going to like this, but I have to give you credit. It looks pretty good. I like the changes. Two things, if I may. I had said in our meeting the other day and with emails between yourself and me, I don't know who remembers, but the committee actually, the public used to actually be part of the committee. In the beginning of the year, you'd sign up, say, I want to be on this committee, I want to be on that committee. And even though they still have a voice the way it is now, they were part of the decision to bring it something to the rest of the board. They were committee members. It wasn't just a chairperson. The way it is now is pretty much a chairperson and whoever comes from the public, which is great. But they actually had a title, for lack of a better term. I don't know. I mean, if I think that's more engaging of the public. And also, as I've said before, somewhere along the line, I think Matt and Rich would probably remember this. Public relations used to be different. It was I mean, it's good for what it is now, but it was different in that it was, there was a committee that had meetings with the public. They apprised us of what was going on with certain groups. I think I remember once the Elks met with us for something that they had going on. As we know, they're a big part of the community, and vice versa. This way, that committee shared school goings on and board goings on and anything school related with the public. So they kind of like a public president's council instead of just PTAs. But otherwise, like I said, I thought I wasn't going to like this, but it looks pretty good. Good job.
Kelly, you're doing a fantastic job.
Kelly, can I say something?
Thank you. Yeah, I was saying, make sure Matt was done. If it was
Oh,
just
I'm
great.
sorry.
If you want to say more about how I'm doing a great job, that's great. But if there's anything else, Matt, please. No, you know, anything else? No, I'm kidding. No. All right.
All right, can I?
Yes, you can now. Yep.
Okay. We had started talking a little bit about this last year, and I remember Sal bringing that up. And I first of all, Kelly, I want to commend you and thank you for taking the time to do this. I know you and I had talked a little bit last year about, you know, getting descriptions of the committee so that the public knew what they were, and maybe putting together just a little blurb about what the responsibilities of each committee was. But we, you know, with all the financial issues we had to deal with last year, that kind of fell to the wayside. And to Sal's point, which he brought up last year, to which I said, and I'll repeat myself, that's one of the reasons that I think we need direction, not just for the public, but for the committee chairs themselves. When I was a newbie on the board 4 years ago and I took over public relations, nobody told me what public relations was. Nobody told me I had to have a meeting. They said that they would want to have people involved. I don't remember who was president at the time.
Actually, I was, so I'll take blame if I did not advise you properly.
Actually,
maybe I don't know.
I don't think you were, because I think I took over public relations when I was first appointed. So, but anyway, it doesn't matter. The point isn't to assign blame. The point is to use what you said as an example of why I think we should go forward with this. It not only helps the public see what we're doing. I think agendas for the committee meetings, putting that out maybe on the district website would be great too. Because for as much as we ask the public to attend the committee meetings, we don't really get many unless there's something specific, they want to, address. I remember going to an athletics committee meeting, which was extremely well attended because of the lacrosse uniforms. So, but in general, the public doesn't, really come out a lot for these things. And I think if they knew what each committee did, what they were responsible for, they probably would. And again, it would help the chairs as well. So I'm all for this. Thanks, Kelly.
And it would be in alignment with our new goal of encouraging two-way communication. That goal is met already if we do that.
That's
the
point.
Can I just add something to that? So I remember, years ago, and those of us that have been around a while, we remember when the community was invited to participate and actually be members of these committees, and then it stopped. And there was a reason why. I remember being told there was a reason why it stopped. And for the life of me right now, I can't remember what that reason was, but there was a legitimate reason why it stopped.
Yeah,
whether that reason is legitimate at this moment in time. Chris, you can speak to this.
Yes.
I don't know, but there was a reason why it stopped, Chris.
The reason that it stopped was the administration asked, and I provided advice to the board. The idea of public attendance, public inclusion in policy and other, as a policy in all of your meetings, all of your committee meetings is a pure positive, except when, it's high season for finance and we're in executive session, and for obviously personnel and negotiations, that's a completely different situation. But you do the public a disservice by titling any member of the public as a member of a committee. They're not. You could have a committee where people believe that the 20 of them are members. So they're 23 members, 3 board members and 17 members of the public, or 20 members of the public. And they vote, 23-0 for a certain course of action. And they believe that that is direction that the board will take. That is unfair to the public because you're not going to take that direction. You may consider it just like you would consider all the public comments that we get. But to give members of the public the perception that they're able to provide direction rather than to provide comments and ask questions is generally misleading. And the School Ethics Commission and the School Boards Association do not like that for that reason. It places you in an awkward situation, it places the administration in an awkward situation, and it is misleading to the public. So that's why it stopped. It was my fault.
I knew there was a reason.
Kind of makes sense, though.
I remember it coming to a halt.
Right. But I say we still encourage it because that's an opportunity to the public to get into more detail or nuance around certain areas of the district that we don't necessarily get to talk to in the board meetings. When an item comes up, we might have talked about it in committee. So I think we still certainly want to encourage the public to come out to these. And as we said, we're going to try to maybe put the agendas out a little earlier to give people the opportunity to look at it and see if they want to come. We're also going to try to, at least as long as we're in this state, we will have them virtual. And, as we know from the attendance at these meetings, for some, it is easier to attend these meetings virtually. So, hopefully we'll see some greater participation. So.
Can I ask a question to Mr. Parton? Is that okay? Hello?
Yeah.
Oh,
yes,
sorry.
Absolutely.
So if instead of calling maybe the public a committee person, can we call them a liaison? And still, this way they still feel like they have a role.
There's nothing illegal about doing that, Ms. Burns, but it may be more straightforward and honest with the public to just encourage them to be there and to participate and to ask their questions and witness the process.
I agree.
I just worry that if you give somebody any sort of a title, you're giving them the perception of control that they may not have, and that's not fair to them.
Okay.
So
what about email? I was going to say, what about forwarding the emails, or how could we then get the committee agendas out to them beforehand?
I think that you could create mechanisms there where people, upon seeing the advertisements on your website and wherever else they're advertised, that they could communicate through whatever means you decide and ask for copies of the agenda, or even link those through the website for things that are not confidential. Again, not personnel or negotiations or confidential finance information, but for other areas, you could simply post the agendas so that anyone can get them. Most committees are purely public.
Thank you.
Sounds like a job for the Community Relations Committee to figure that one out.
Yeah.
But we probably could even use the notice, right? We have the new app that we can say,
Right.
here's the agenda.
You could,
throw it out.
if the chairs of each committee would then collect, you put it out on the public anyway, but if the chairs of the committee so have interested community members who want to receive personalized information about the agenda for that, they can register and sign up for the Aptigee and probably get pushed out that way through notification.
Can I just say one more thing, please?
Nope.
I want to say this publicly to Mrs. Cowley. I did not by any means say you were doing it wrong. That's not what I meant at all. It just morphed somewhere along the line, and it just changed, and I don't know.
It was just kind of assigned to me and run with it. But that's what happens, whether you're a brand new student or a brand new board member,
I just didn't want you to think I was saying you're doing it wrong.
Thank you. I didn't take it that way, but thank you.
Okay.
So I think, moving forward with our committees, I think each committee, if you're having a meeting, an agenda needs to be established prior to the meeting. And when the meeting is announced, there needs to be a place where we need to put the agenda so that the public can see what's being discussed at this meeting, so that they can decide whether they want to attend or not. Oftentimes people, if there's no agenda, nobody knows what's
going to be discussed. So an agenda needs to be presented prior to the meeting and placed in an area that the public has easy access to view it. So the question is, where is that? You know, is it on, you know, the district website? Is it?
So I don't think, you know, I totally agree, Joe. So I think that's something we'll take, that we said is kind of one of the goals. And well, I don't think we need to figure it out here in this meeting.
Sure.
But we certainly do that. And we can also, I was thinking of talking to Mrs. Knorr, kind of who knows that website really well. So absolutely is something that we'll get going for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Anyone else?
Yeah.
So anyone else? And again, you know what? We update these every now and then, you know, every couple of years. So we can try it and work it out. And, you know, as always, every couple of years we tweak a little bit. So we can get this out and update it. And Mr. Martin, do we vote on this if we do something like this? I don't think I don't know if it's a change to a policy.
It could be a revision to your bylaw because you have standing committees listed in your bylaws. So you may have to tweak that.
Okay. Okay. We'll take a peek at that. And then, because I know we did still want to start committees that make sense sooner than later, you know, as the topics come up. I mean, I know administration's pretty busy right now with a lot of this remote, but when the stuff comes up, we'll start doing that. I can clean this up a bit. We'll get it out to the board and remind everybody to give me back your preferences.
Yeah. No, honestly, like I said in the beginning, Kelly, this is a great job that you did. You know.
Thank you. All right. Any other new business or any other comments on this? Because believe it or not, we do not have an executive session tonight. Is that correct, Mr. Parton?
Oh, darn.
Now,
No
don't
way.
do that.
Unless
Kelly, we're going to put you on a payroll.
No, let's go. No executive session. Let's move.
All right. Any other new business? Mrs. Burns, did you remember your other question?
I did, yes.
Okay.
So our tentative date for reopening is October 12th. And if we don't reopen, is there going to be a reevaluation of our remote learning? And how is that going to be rolled out if there's going to be any changes?
We will continue to, well, there's always going to be the process of looking at our remote learning, because even if we come back in the hybrid component, there is an element of remote learning that still will take place. And that is the task of the remote learning task force that will be meeting on Thursday with the data provided from the elementary survey that went out and information brought back to us from our educators and parents that are on that task force as well. So it's always, like I've said in the beginning, it's always evolving, it's always growing, we're always looking to improve.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Last call for new business.
Lisa, I like your background.
Matt with all the compliments tonight.
I'm telling you. Let's close it up.
All right, anyone else? So I would like to end this by what Daniel said earlier. You got this, Old Bridge, and we got you. I love that.
I like that.
So if we can have a motion to close and not go into executive session.
I think Sal should.
Can I motion?
Yes, you may.
All right.
I'm gonna
Don will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Thank you all for your
Good night, everyone.
comments.
Good night.
That's it.
Thank you, everyone.